Breaking news for the listeners. Felix did not sleep well last night and is not, repeat, not feeling submissive and breedable this morning.
So, okay. Give some backstory here. We're in the ringed city where they keep the Dark Soul, Houston, and someone woke Philly and Nor because there's like a hurricane today.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we knew it was coming. It's never really a surprise. But by that, I mean, it's if your home is destroyed by a hurricane, it is your fault.
Of course.
Because you can always tell when it's coming and you should just move your house.
Yeah.
But anyway, like we were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, well, I bet I can go to the gym before it gets bad. And, you know, sure enough, I woke up this morning and I did not go to the gym. Now, there was a secondary factor of going to the gym that wasn't just fitness. There was a theory agreed to by many at the time that if I went to a high-end gym in Equinox and we were, you know, I was kind of trapped there by a hurricane, it would just, but because of the time of day, I would go around 10 a.m. The only other people there would be, you know, 32-year-old MILFs.
Yeah.
And the thinking was that like, we're just trapped there and I have to repopulate the earth with them because everyone else is dead in Houston. But I woke up this morning and I didn't feel like doing that. So I just went to the hotel gym and did pull-ups.
Were there no MILFs there?
There was no one there.
There was no one there?
Yeah.
By the way, there is, this is like, I don't know, like the third or fourth largest city in America. It is massive. Houston is mega city one.
It's
I went out this
insane.
morning to just like to have a little constitutional, walk around, see what's up. This is like, you know, Midtown Houston. Maybe I don't know enough about the neighborhood, but I felt like the fucking Omega Man. There was no one on the street. And, you know, on our tour here in Texas, Felix has been auditioning for the role of Don Johnson's character in A Boy and His Dog. He wants to repopulate the post-apocalyptic landscape with just sort of like a very, very tanned Southern women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just women whose faces look evil.
Yeah.
Because of like they got filler when they didn't need it, you know. And now they just keep getting it. It's okay, you know. We were in Dallas, and I went to a pretty evil neighborhood in Dallas, Highland Park. But I have never felt the level of. There's the hurricane. I've never felt the level of evil swag that Houston has.
Well, I mean, we pulled off the highway. First of all, we're of course, you know, highway right downtown, literally right next to everything. First thing we see downtown is that there is a Ferris wheel and one of those rides where you just go up and then come back down right next to the highway.
It was a Ferris wheel and one of like the rides where you go up and down and it would just like pop up and there'd just be like 30 kids strapped to this
waving
thing,
at you.
waving at the busiest section of freeway in the United States.
Yeah. And then you come off the highway and we're down at Midtown and our neighbors are literally the headquarters of Chevron and Aramco.
Yeah. And I think we have to paint the picture of like how the buildings seem because it's like, you know, we live in New York and other major cities, but like something about the buildings in Houston is just they're built in order to terrify you.
Yeah.
It's like like even the parking garages look evil and hostile to humanity. And like there's no zoning here. So like right as we go off the freeway, right before we get to the evil building district, there's a house, the architecture style I could only describe as stupid. This is a traditionally stupid house. You know, it's like this is a Victorian Tudor Real Housewives style house that I built in 2017. It was one of those houses that looked like if you like kicked one of the fence posts on the garden, the entire thing would come down. But everything in downtown is built, it's Anne Orlando. The two styles of architecture here are Anne Orlando and Undead Settlement because they don't, everything that isn't like the headquarters for like the Contras or the Bilderberg Group is like a basketball court that's never had any people come on it. People just like glitch, just wander in and out of traffic.
It's interesting because we were in Dallas, which also gets accused of being a very evil city, and I certainly understand that. But the buildings, first of all, there's they've actually got some older stuff, and they got some pretty interesting brutalism in Dallas. But even Their newer skyscrapers were all built in the 80s by people who were just absolutely zooted on coke, and they have a fun coke whimsy to them. Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's
Yeah.
make this into a giant triangle.
Yeah.
Let's make this one look like a Kubert level. We're having fun.
Let's put a hole in the middle of this building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But every skyscraper in Houston is like it
It's
was
oppressive.
designed by oil.
Yeah.
Like they consulted a simmering like deep pocket of like crude that just vibrated like the cube in Prince of Darkness. And then it just like psychically communicated the plans to them, and then they just built them.
Yeah, Dallas is the city that Coke built, but Houston was built by people who, like, for religious reasons, can't even drink soda, but are allowed to have sex slaves. Like that exact intersection of religion.
Yeah, I'm walking around. I did see a few guys walking around, in their business casual outfits, and it looked like they were having a great time. And see, downtown Houston, anyway, seems like a fun time if you've ever tried to blow up Michael Clayton.
Oh man. Well, yeah, we've been having a blast here on our trip through Texas. Just meeting and greeting all our prized hogs and bringing them to fair.
Yep.
Slapping
Yeah.
a big blue ribbon on all of them here down in Texas. It's great though. We're doing a show tomorrow night in Houston, but fellas, it's Monday, March 21st. Let's get into the swing of things.
Yes.
And I suppose that means we have to talk about Ukraine again.
Oh boy,
And
they're still at it over there.
yeah. It's thousands of people are dead. The war continues to grind on. I don't know what the situation is in terms of it seems bad. It seems terrible.
Yeah.
But let's talk about just reactions to it here in this country. And once again, folks, the left is being taken into account. The left is being brought to heel.
Fine.
If there's
Finally.
anyone who's most responsible for the current situation, it definitely is the left.
When I look at the left in this country, I think, I'm like basically powerful enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like basically powerful enough, but we need someone who loves articles to take them on. Who's the biggest article head that can tell them what's for?
Well, here's the one that's burning up my timeline today. It's Eric Levitt's writing in New York Magazine, headline: "The left has half-baked answers on Ukraine."
Oh,
I'd like some
no.
fully baked ones, please.
I want to be fully baked.
I'd like them
please.
to be crisp and golden brown.
How about, you know what? Honestly, I know it takes longer, but it's worth it. Give me some twice baked ideas.
Yeah, there needs to be like fully cooked ideas. Like just send them weapons with no preconditions or anything for
Yeah.
8 years and just see what happens.
Fully baked ideas, like what our former Secretary of State explicitly said: turn it into Afghanistan. That's the fully baked idea, if I've ever heard one.
The premise of this article is that there are fully baked ideas to be had here. But
Delicious.
I think it's starting off. No cap gang continues to take massive losses in Q1 2022.
Do you realize that two countries who were both doing No Cap November have never gone to war with each other?
This is the thing here. This is why articles exist here, is that nobody, right, left, or center, has any good or fully
Nope.
baked ideas when it comes to, I don't know, how to deal with Russia trying to create their own empire, or basically there is no good answer to a nuclear armed state.
Yeah.
It's deciding that okay, we're just going to go to war with a country that doesn't have bombs.
Yeah. No, it's.
There was no answer for America doing that.
No.
Right. No one else in the world could stop us doing Iraq or Afghanistan.
This is what the collapse of the precious and beloved international order looks like, and wishing it went the other way doesn't change it. That's not fully baked either. That's just whining.
Well, yeah, right now is it is the greatest time to just say the most decontextualized things possible. I've seen people go, I'm against American intervention and the war, obviously, but doesn't Ukraine have agency to join NATO? Like it's a apartment building co-op. But this specific type of article, which the left has no power in America. Why would you write this article? Because your point of view has won. It's the only point of view that we've ever fucking seen. This article completely, because of that, it cannot talk about the past at all. So anyone even tangentially associated with DSA talking about maybe saying that like maybe this strategy of escalation and like expanding NATO past 1991, maybe we're looking at its failures right now.
Right.
That is just that's Holocaust denial, basically.
Yeah.
You can't say that. You can't talk about the past because if you're writing one of these articles, we are seeing the fruition of your worldview. Was there a time in the Obama administration when like the DSA International Committee was in charge of foreign policy? Did Trump give like a Twitter Stalinist an important post at state? No, this has been running the show the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
And like I sort of like I understand the need for these kind of articles in a 2020 context when people like could credibly, or at least in a fantastical sense, trick themselves into believing that like the Bernie Sanders left, the dirtbag left, the bros, the DSA, whatever you want to call it, could exercise some influence over the course of events.
And so they had
in
to have
American
a fully
politics.
baked foreign policy.
Yeah. So, but that certainly isn't the case now. And like the DSA International Committee is not it's not bending the ear of the Biden administration in any way. But when you when you are holding out the leftmost position at sort of credentialed media institutions, you gotta earn your keep somehow.
Yeah.
And
You have to show them that you're normal.
Yeah,
Because
you have
there's
to be normal.
as we said, there's no good answers, and none of them want to write like the full hog version of this, which is some fantasy about arming Ukraine and fighting to the last Ukrainian and all that, like brinksmanship that is of course icky and as a good liberal leftist you wouldn't want to do. So what can you write? And the only answer is I can show everybody how serious I am by chastising these unserious people who have no power and more importantly than anything are not under any kind of institutional authority, don't answer to anybody, are not part of any like large scale structures of power, which means that there's nothing you can tell them that even if they agreed with you, they could do about it.
Yeah,
And
here's a fully baked idea, and this was one of the most attractive prospects of Bernie 2020, was the idea that at least a lot of the people on his side in foreign policy who would have had top jobs would have understood that the time of America as the sole superpower is coming to an end and would have negotiated our exit in a way that would have avoided calamities. Because guess what? It's going to fucking happen one way or the other. It's already happening.
Yes. And now the people in charge, both parties, the blob, are the serious people who bake things all the way through, are all completely enraptured with this fantasy that we have the ability to assert control over these situations.
Well, I mean, it's just like it's another round of like you gotta purge the cranks and the conspiracy theorists and the nuts. You have to like define yourself in opposition to these people, even though I don't know how anyone can look at the events of the last 20 or 30 years and just categorically dismiss all nuts, cranks, and whack jobs.
Yeah, they're mostly right.
yeah.
They've been way righter than
They've been
anybody.
way more like
authority.
if you like play out their like theories or beliefs, no matter how outlandish, over like a 30, 40-year time period. Compare that to the smart, sensible, decent crowd of people who and their fully baked opinions, and see which fucking which adds up better. We'll weigh those out on the scales. So let's dive into what Eric has to write here. It begins, he writes, as Russian missiles rain down on Ukrainian cities, the American left has come under a more figurative kind of fire. In recent weeks, a wide variety of publications and politicians have taken U.S. leftists to task for their collective response to the crisis in Ukraine,
Collective response.
which has been derided as blinkered, pro-Putin, and worse things besides. These critiques have prompted rhetorical reprisals from socialists who contend that their faction's analysis of the war has been unerringly sound, both morally and analytically. More ambivalent fellow travelers, meanwhile, have vacillated in the crossfire. And there's like a billion hyperlinks to all this shit that like I'm not sussing
Who
out.
cares?
Yeah, like
Another article head getting high off his own supply.
Yeah, article heads. I'm not addicted. Article heads. Oh, I need 8 more articles while I'm writing my articles just so I can feel a buzz.
the debate over the American left's position on Ukraine is confounded by disagreements over what constitutes the American left and its position on Ukraine. The impetus for the most discourse on this subject were statements published by the Democratic Socialists of America's International Committee. Yet that committee does not represent the views of all DSA members, let alone Americans who identify with the left. And the DSA IIC's policy demands the lifting of sanctions against Russia, the denial of military aid to Ukraine, and America's immediate withdrawal from NATO directly contradict the positions held by America's most prominent socialist politicians. He's referring to, like Bernie Sanders and AOC. If conservatives have elided this complexity to declare the entire U.S. left weak on Russian aggression, some socialists have done the same for contrary purposes.
No, they can't. I'm sorry. That is the one. Like, I guess the argument here that is not like pie in the sky bullshit is like, well, how is it going to look to the other people? What are the conservatives going to say? Which, of course, is always dumb, but is extra dumb here since the most vocal and most unapologetic pro-Russian people are fucking members of Congress